Thanks for tuning in to our live coverage of our NASCAR coverage. The Cup Series will be in Nashville this week. The Nashville Super Speedway, the Cracker Barrel 400. We're also going to take a look back at the Coke 600. What won't be on this live show, though, will be our F1 coverage. So you can check that out. As soon as our live coverage is over, CJ and I will be recording our F1 coverage. So that will be available a little bit later on the week here on Proline TV. CJ Verdun joining me from rotowire.com. How's it going, CJ? Happy post-Memorial Day weekend.
Happy post-Memorial Day weekend to you. Hope you enjoyed the races.
Yeah. I did notice, and we'll talk more about this later, of course, as a tease to our F1 coverage. I hadn't had time to read it yet, but Prime Tire had a news. The title on the newsletter was "The Monaco GP is still broken."
I completely agree.
Okay.
Arguably worse than it has been, too.
Okay. So we'll talk about that coming up on our F1 coverage. Of course, the Indy 500. I don't know. I wasn't really... It was kind of weird the way the Indy 500 ended because of the fact that you had the cars were out of sequence. That's never good. And there wasn't really a lot of passing. You know, I mean, we had a lot of drama. And I remember, I think it was last year. And I know we've had a lot of drama at this rate at Indianapolis. Not all the time, but for the most part, I think on average, I think we have the late passing and there's all the drama of who's going to win, but none of that happened really on Sunday. And of course, everything with Penske, and that just went crazy. So, and then Kyle Larson. And matter of fact, I just saw, we were searching for the video of last year's race in Nashville, and I came upon a video that I'm going to pop up here just to see what it's all about. But yeah, what did you think?
The Indy 500 certainly started crappy. And I was thinking that after the Monaco debacle, that we were in store for another really crappy race. But I would say the second half of the Indy 500 started to pick up. The strategies were really what made it very interesting. But you're right, there wasn't a whole ton of passing. Pelot was definitely moving to the front. Joseph Newgarden came to the front from the back, which was great for him. I think the majority of the drama actually happened after the race, though, with two Andretti cars, Marcus Ericsson, and then also a Prima car getting disqualified following post-race inspection and being moved to the back. So Pato O'Ward ending up with another runner-up finish yet again, despite the fact that I think he finished third on track. But Pelot was one of my picks. He was looking strong all month. It looked like this was going to be his race to win. It was probably going to be down between him and Pato O'Ward, which lo and behold ended up becoming virtually the case. And Pelot, with Chip Ganassi Racing, they just executed flawlessly, and that enabled them to take the victory.
Yeah, it looked like Pato O'Ward's day was over right after, was it his first pit stop where he lost about 5 spots or 6 spots and he never got it back. So
yeah, kind of got mired in traffic there for the rest of the day. And I think mistakes and kind of stupid things happening were the order of the day. I mean, you had Scott McLaughlin, one of the 3 favorites, crashing before the green flag even happened. You had a crash on the first green flag.
Oh, that was crazy.
Yeah, I don't remember that since Roberto Guerrero back in the early 1990s. I think that was the last time I recall that happening.
Is that the same thing like in NASCAR? They're trying to get the dirt off the tires and
trying to get the tires warmed up. It happened to be cold, and then just catches a quick, either a spin or a quick grip, and spins you right to the inside. The exact same thing happened to Roberto Guerrero back in 1992, 93, somewhere around there. Felt really bad for McLaughlin, but you got to expect that. I mean, it was a cold day. It was cool. Probably should have taken a little bit more care in warming up the tires. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes.
Okay. And then in the Coke 600, of course, the whole drama of Larson, but to our faithful viewers and any new viewers that are out there, by the way, Kyle Larson ended up going off at 3-1 when the race began. His odds went down. And look, we have no idea if Kyle Larson is going to race next year. He might decide to take a couple years off. But fact is this is why we say what we say regarding value. And there is, and this is, and nobody is going to convince me that what happened on Sunday to Kyle Larson in the Coke 600 was just a coincidence. Not going to convince me of it. I'm sorry. This is what happens when you put all of this additional stuff on his plate. And I know there are a few cars had some of the problems that Kyle had, but not a lot of them did. So what was the track? Was it Texas that has that really weird bump?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not Texas. So yeah, that's why we say what we say.
I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. If you didn't listen, I'm sorry. I mean, it's one thing to do it, and Kyle Larson's a fantastic race car driver. Obviously, could win either race, and probably will in the future. You know, but again, only one person has completed all the miles of both, and that was Tony Stewart, and no person has ever won it. It's like artificially upping the difficulty level, and then you're going to give me 3-1 odds. No, thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
So unfortunately for Kyle, he gets off to a good start, and then boom, he's gone. And then it was the William Byron show. And it was the William Byron show for quite a long time. And as a matter of fact, he was winning the stages, and they were talking about anybody that's ever won these stages have always gone on to win the Coke 600. And it sure looked like that was the case. And you know, Denny Hamlin sure did his best. You know, he went from 20th to second, and he was first and then second and first and then second. But for the most part, he was second. And it looked like even when Chastain passed Hamlin late, you still just had a feeling that, well, that's just Denny just doesn't have it anymore. And that's it. Byron's going to go win and it's over. And then Chastain found a way to get him with the late pass. And this is what happens in the Coke 600. I mean, William Byron in any other race, 99% of the other races, all of them, he's a winner. But this is the longest race. So there were a few laps additional, and he was not able to hold on. So what did you think? I mean, my third place pick beat your first place pick. I was rooting for your first place pick because that was one of my top picks as well. And I had more money on Byron than Chastain. What did you think about the result there?
I thought it was a good race. I think we talked about, Chastain was one of the guys that was in the mix for our picks without question, as was Byron. So Byron, certainly the dominant car, started third, led 283 laps, swept the stages, like you said. But Ross Chastain and this Trackhouse Racing team, for some reason, they are able to adjust their car over longer races that gets him what he needs in the closing laps. And I just got the impression that, as Byron and Hamlin were duking it out, everybody kind of forgot about Chastain, but they were working hard. They were digging. They made the adjustments that they needed to make. I mean, he started last after an issue on Saturday, a tire failure. Ended up into the stage points by the time the stage 2 finished. He was there again in stage 3. And it was just a matter of one small adjustment the right direction that was going to give him what he needed. So when I saw him closing in on Byron after that last cycle of pit stops came through, I just knew it was going to end up being Chastain. And it was really only a question of dirty air as to whether or not Byron was going to be able to put the car in front of him or in the right spot to be able to keep Chastain behind. And there was one lap where Byron went down off the top line and came to the middle, and Chastain just made up a ton of ground. Like 5 laps later, even the announcer said, "Don't do that again." 5 laps later, he did the exact same thing. And I thought, well, that's it. It's gone. And Chastain made the pass, and there was no looking back after that. And I commend William Byron for making a charge after that. He did get to his bumper, get to Chastain's bumper a couple of times in the last handful of laps. But it's so difficult to pass. You've got to have a supreme advantage. And by that point, Byron had given up his advantage by giving up that high line against the wall. Chastain was by, and it was his race to lose at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was the thing about the race though was there was sort of like 2 races in the race. One was that there was a lot of drama, good drama at the front, which is really what you want. But unfortunately, because it was basically just, for the most part, Hamlin and Byron, that left every other driver out of it for like 3 hours. There was
Exactly,
no
right.
other, if you didn't like root or have Hamlin or Byron in the race, I don't know what I would have done. I would have been bored out of my skull just watching two drivers that I had no interest in duking it out the entire race. Of course, Chastain made it late to add a third driver in there. So that's the thing. I mean, I was a little bit disappointed that there just wasn't an opportunity on a 1.5 mile track for more passing, which we've seen on other 1.5 mile tracks with this car. So I don't know if there's anything they want to do. I don't know if there's anything they can do.
As typical of Charlotte, the long green flag runs, the length of the race, it enables the guys that hit the settings correctly early in the weekend to really go out and stretch their legs and just build up an insurmountable lead. And I think that's exactly what we saw yet again. It's not like Las Vegas or perhaps Kansas and some other tracks where that draft, I don't know if the draft is a little bit more powerful, the way that that's a tri-oval with the progressive banking, whereas Charlotte just has steep banking and it's a quad oval. They just can't get those runs to be able to suck up and make those passes like you do at some of the other tracks. But the good thing about Charlotte, though, at least, is that you do have multiple lines throughout the turn. So you can take, 2 or 3 different lines depending upon how your car handles. But a lot like Darlington and some of the other tracks, there's really only one line that's really fast, and that happened to be up against the wall once your tires were old. You could run the bottom line if your tires were new because you'd wear them out really quickly. You'd be able to make up some ground, but then after that, you just lost so much grip. You'd have to move up toward the wall. And Byron unfortunately made the mistake to move down just that half lane or whatever, and that gave Chastain the ability to come through. And even watching Chastain, and the announcers called it out too. So I give Prime a lot of coverage. This was the first race that they ever done. I want to say that they did a fantastic job. Absolutely blew Fox out of the water, but they were correct in pointing out how number one, Byron should be staying up against the wall. And then, Chastain was able to make up the ground when he came off that wall, but they were also able to show how Chastain was able to turn the car down at the end of the curve to be able to almost, ride the wall in the top to maintain some of that momentum, but then have enough grip to be able to turn down at the end to be able to cut off the distance a little bit more and make up some ground. And that was really the deciding factor between the two. And those were the adjustments that Chastain made to be able to get that grip. Whereas everybody else throughout the rest of the race, as their tires aged, they had to stay up against the wall for whatever reason. Chastain was able to figure out how to make those front tires stick a little bit more and last a little bit longer to be able to turn off the wall at the end of the turn. So that was the difference. I think Prime did a pretty good job at pointing that out. But I think we got to wait, unfortunately, till Las Vegas, Kansas, and some of those other tracks to be able to get some of the racing that we really like. Homestead would be another example. Again, progressive banking there, I think, making the difference versus a Charlotte.
We also want to remind everybody that if you haven't already tuned in for our additional coverage, this is the one that leads it off each week. And then I have the starting lineup reports that come up after qualifying and practice each week. But in between, Kevin Rogers, our new addition, handicapping the races this season, started on Fridays. We've moved it to Saturday early before qualifying and practice starts. And Kevin picked Ross Chastain at 22-1 as his top pick this week. So nice going, Kevin. I'm sure he didn't feel too good after practice and qualifying, but it all worked out. So you could check that out. So we have 3 videos now. F1 makes it 4 if we have an F1 race like we do this week. So, I'm sure we'll talk to Kevin at some point, maybe even on this show. All right, let's now tell you what. Like I said, before we move on, I was taking a look. I wanted to see about how the race ended last year, and I came across. Matter of fact, I didn't even hit anything because I do watch Eric Estep's videos, and it was one of the videos, and it said the Kyle Larson controversy. So I'm not sure. So I have no idea what this is about. Hold on a second. I got to get the audio in here. So let's just let's see if we could pick up anything of what he's talking about.
And drama, power ranking.
Actually, let's see. Here's Kyle Larson disclosure.
Thank you to Tableau for sponsoring the show. Kyle Larson had a really bad Sunday. Rain once again delayed the start of the Indy 500, rendering Kyle Larson's pursuit of 1,100 miles all but impossible from the get-go. Then he made a couple mistakes in the race, stalled the car exiting pit road, and then spun on a restart, crashed. Larson goes to Charlotte for the 600 and hits the wall while leading, spins out, and then later gets caught up in another crash. 2 races, 2 DNFs. For the second straight year, a day that began with so much potential ended with so much disappointment. If you've spent any time on social media the past couple of days, you've seen fans take plenty of shots at Kyle Larson. And I get it. Larson wins a lot. He also crashes a lot. He's somewhat controversial, and he's a little arrogant. This infamous quote from last year's Chili Bowl often gets misquoted, but Kyle Larson was asked if he's a better driver than 4-time defending F1 champion Max Verstappen, and Larson bit. He said, quote, "I know in my mind I am better than him as an all-around driver. Maybe not an open-wheel IndyCar or Formula One car, but that's one discipline. I think I would beat him in everything else." The best driver in the world debate, although that's not exactly what Kyle Larson said, has raged on ever.
Have you read that? Did you know about that?
Yeah, we actually talked about that.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. The question is whether or not, I think Kyle Larson could go into a Formula One car. Certainly he's gone into an Indy car and he's shown himself to be competitive. I think he could probably get into a Formula One car and with some time be relatively competitive as well. But the question is whether or not Max can go to stock car or sprint car and be competitive.
Sure.
I think that's what Kyle Larson was pointing to. It really makes me wish for the days where we had IROC, or maybe you put them both in a rally car or something completely out of the discipline that either one of them are used to, and then see who the better one is. It's so vastly different from a discipline standpoint. I think if you can wheel a car and you're one of the greats of all time, you can wheel a car no matter what it is. And that's, AJ Foyt, Mario Andretti, Jim Clark, Kyle Larson is probably up there as well. I would put Jimmy Johnson in there too, even though he was a little bit mediocre when it comes to IndyCar. But I think, the greats, Fernando Alonso is probably the best example, contemporarily speaking, of somebody that can go into any discipline and be competitive. He's done Formula One. He's a Formula One world champion. He was Rookie of the Year at Indianapolis, led laps, was on his way almost to winning the Indy 500. He's won the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He's gone and done the Paris-Dakar rally as well, or the Dakar rally. It's not the Paris-Dakar rally anymore. And now he's back in Formula One again. So I think to be one of the world's greatest, you've got to do all of those disciplines. There are very few guys that can do them all extremely well. I think Kyle Larson, with the right setup, right practice and everything, could be one of those drivers. And I think he proved it at Indy this year. You got to take this year with a grain of salt. Obviously spinning on that restart and crashing out, and then obviously going to Charlotte after that and spinning and crashing out, as well as a blem on his record. But nonetheless, he's still one of the best that's out there today.
Wouldn't he have to do that though, if he really wanted to? And again, if you do proclaim that, wouldn't you have to do that? Wouldn't you have to go and prove yourself?
Oh, for sure.
And decide, okay, that's it for NASCAR. I got to go do something else.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's the thing I think that everybody's got to remember. Like back in the day, all the Formula One drivers could get out and go do an IndyCar race. In fact, the Indy 500 was part of the World Championship for a short time, and you could go do 24 Hours Le Mans. And in fact, a lot of them did, and some of them even went and did races down in Australia when it was winter up north. So they raced all the time, pretty much anything that they could get in. This time, with all the sponsors, with the money that's in the sport, with all the risk in crashing and all that good kind of stuff, it's really difficult to find anybody, number one, that would be willing to go do it, number two, that could go do it, and then number three, that actually does go do it. I like to see Kyle Larson trying. I like to see Kurt Busch, Fernando Alonso trying, but they're really the only three in recent memory that have been doing it.
Okay, so what's is that the controversy, you think?
That's got to be the controversy.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean, other than him just crashing twice,
All right, yeah.
can't think of anything.
Kyle Larson had a chance to end that debate on Sunday, and he didn't. Instead, that turned out to be one of the worst Sundays Larson has had in quite some time. He's left the best driver, most versatile driver argument wide open. Larson is definitely cocky. There's the Max Verstappen quote. There's what he said earlier this season about wanting to embarrass the Xfinity Series field every time he gets in one of those cars. And this week, many fans on social media have slammed Larson for something that happened during the opening pace laps at Indianapolis. Scott McLaughlin spun and crashed on the pace laps. Cold tires, cold, potentially still damp racetrack. He slipped. Bad mistake, a devastating end to his Indy 500 effort. A clip from Kyle Larson's onboard has made the rounds on social media where you can hear someone on Larson's radio say, I can't tell you if that's Kyle Larson who said it or if maybe it was his spotter, Tyler Mon. But yeah, whoever said it, that's kind of mean. But I don't know, my take, it's professional sports. That's pretty mild compared to most trash talk. But then in the video, as Larson passes the number 3 wreckage, he gives him a little thumbs up. Yeah, I mean, my first interpretation is, dang, that's kind of rubbing it in there. Kind of disrespectful, not great sportsmanship, kicking a guy when he's down. But hey, there are multiple ways also to interpret that thumbs up. I don't know the depths of Larson and McLaughlin's relationship. That could have literally been a thumbs up. Hey, you okay? You good? It also could have been a snarky, hey, thanks for delaying the start even further. I'm on a time crunch here trying to get to Charlotte. We don't know the true intent behind that. But yeah, that clip looks cocky. Anyway, nobody would be talking about those clips if Kyle Larson doesn't crash out of both races. Larson is definitely a little cocky, but usually he backs it up on the racetrack. I want to embarrass the Xfinity field. Well, he did. He's opened up 15-second leads in that series. I'm the best all-around driver. Well, he's got a cup championship, 30-plus cup wins, road course, short track, big track. He's won 3 Chili Bowl Nationals. He's won High Limit, World of Outlaws, Dirt Sprint Car, Dirt Late Model.
No super speedways. Well, select few. No Daytona wins. No Talladega wins. No Atlanta wins in the last 4 years.
Well, I mean, but as fast as Larson is and as successful as he's been, he's had some embarrassing moments. He does overstep. He crashes a lot. With Larson, you kind of have to take all the highs with the lows. We've talked about that. Unfortunately for Larson and his fans, Sunday was a huge, huge low. Not everyone's going to like Kyle Larson, and I completely get that. I don't personally mind a little arrogance if you're able to back it up. And again, throughout his career, Larson, for the most part, has backed it up.
All right, so I wanted to know what the controversy was, and we found it.
Yeah, I guess that was it. I did not see that, didn't hear it. Oh well, it's tough to say whether that was, hey, are you okay? I mean, that would be a common gesture to give me a thumbs up. Are you?
I guess it depends on who said.
Depends on
idiot.
That. I can't tell that, certainly. And then also it very well could have been, thanks. Yeah, we're already delayed over 40 minutes. I got a plane to catch. I need to get down to Charlotte. And the weird thing about that is Larson's incident was relatively the same. It was cold tires, cold track, coming back up to speed on a restart. He lost it by himself, and yeah, it was in traffic and people were checking up behind him, but nonetheless, nobody touched him. He lost it himself and ended up spinning, taking out 2 cars along with him, and then goes to Charlotte and kind of does the same thing. So Eric's right. Long story short, you got to take the highs and the lows with Larson. You know that he's going to crash. So again, those who didn't listen to us at 3-1 wasn't the best option to take. Sorry. Maybe next time.
Yeah, the thing is, look, we all know Larson is one of the best drivers in NASCAR. And I think really that's what you have to start with first. And I know that the system is different, and I get that. But I even think with as much as we've seen with the DNFs and the inconsistency and all the 30s or worse he had even just last year, that I don't know why that debate is settled already in NASCAR. I just, I mean, I don't look at it as Kyle Larson is clearly the best driver in NASCAR. I don't. I say, okay, Kyle Larson, put him with 3 or 4 or 5 other drivers and let's have a discussion. And I'm okay with going a number of different ways within that discussion. So yeah, and I've often mentioned that. That's what we kind of joke about every week, how he's always the favorite every week, unless he's at Daytona or Talladega or something. So yeah, look, it's good for the sport, and I don't mind that. I don't mind if he wants to be the bad guy. And I tell you what, we'll find out just what kind of person Kyle Larson is within a pretty relatively short period of time now, because of all this publicity that's going on about him. If the drivers and the people and the fans or the people who should respect him or not in the industry are start to get loud and start to say things, and you start to see that maybe that there's some major issues there, then I think we'll know, well, you know, Kyle Larson isn't very liked, and there's a lot of issues there with his personality, or maybe the opposite. So that's something I think we'll probably find out. And you know, I would think within the next year. So
I would think so too. He's had some controversial moments in the past, and you know, he's still
suspended. Yes,
he's still back. Yeah, I don't know that anything's going to change, to be honest with you, unless there's some kind of magical moment that you know, circumstances happen, and whether that's for the good or for the bad. I think Kyle Larson is Kyle Larson. He's a fantastic driver. He knows it. He knows that he can win anytime he gets on the track, except for maybe a super speedway. And even those he's getting better at, but he's still not, you know, they're not as good as tracks as those other ones for him. So I think we know what we're getting with Kyle Larson at this point. And yeah, he can go out and he could win just about every single race, but so could somebody like Denny Hamlin when he was at his best. So could Kyle Busch when he was at his best. And there are a number of other ones, like you said, that could easily go out there and win pretty much any week, like a Ryan Blaney, William Byron, etc. So I think we've got what we got. I'd like to see more consistency out of him before I start calling him the greatest, certainly. But that said, he's definitely going to be in the top 5 pretty much every single week, unless we're at Talladega, Daytona, or Atlanta.
Okay, so I want to take a look at, because we're going to move on over now to the preview in the race this week. And as we do this, just checking the time, because I have to make sure that in case we get a basically it's a claim regarding the video, something that I might have to edit out. Now, hopefully there won't be any issues with our, I've never had this experience with our live viewers, so I have no idea how they do that with the live viewers, but I think it's just all a matter of just monetization. So I will eliminate this part for our on-demand viewers if that is an issue. So what I want to do is I'm going to take a look. I'm going to fast forward all the way to the end of the race last year. Let's see. Let me pop this in here. And this is interesting and important because of the fact that if you take a look at the first 3 years, the first 3 years of the race here at Nashville, CJ, the trends are pretty strong as far as Chevy, all top 5 starters as far as pole position. And so that makes a lot of sense. Then this year comes. So this is, they're not showing what lap this is. You see a lap thing on here? I don't. Let's see. Let's get a lap, a 78 to go. Okay. So, well, there's another one. Let's see. Where are we? 47. Let's probably have to go all the way over here. Oh, we're already in overtime. Okay. So what happened is we had, I think, 5 restarts, if I recall, at the end of this race last year. And Logano won from the 26th position. And he was a Ford. So this is an outlier in my mind. And I think that if we're going to use the handicapping, this race based on trends, I still got to go with what we saw the first 3 years and not what happened here, because Logano won the race because of fuel mileage. because with all the additional restarts, he had the additional fuel and others did not. And we had some wrecks. So let's see here. You had Hamlin chasing down Chastain late. So I remember this. Okay. Let's see here. Now Hamlin's got the lead. So he passes Chastain. And it looked like, from what I remember last year, Hamlin was going to now win the race. And then there was a late caution. I don't remember what it was for. There's Larson. There's our buddy Larson. And there's Kyle Busch, by the way. Busch actually had a pretty decent car last year in this race. And he's been pretty good here. You know, the funny thing is we've seen Kyle Busch with some crazy odds the last several races, like low. Not last week, but before that, I don't know what last week was. And then I saw the odds this week, and it was like, wait a second, now you're back to putting Kyle Larson, back with the long shots, and yet this has actually been a good track for him. So I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I'm looking at the statistics from this race last year. It was, I think, scheduled for 300 laps, ended up going 331. 5 or 6 restarts at the end, and 1 green flag lap for each of those before we finally got the overtime finish with Joey Logano winning.
Look at this, 14th.
31. Yeah, there goes Cindric.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that is such a killer. With 2 laps to go, which just means it's it. It's the final lap. All you need is to go 1 more lap. And all of this would have been forgotten. And yet one issue by Cindric, and then we've got an additional. This might have lasted probably an hour.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
Let's see what happened here, by the way. You see, it's just really necessary.
Was Gregson number 10 last year? I think he was.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah, I'm off of, yeah.
Oh, well, that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, kind of bounced off each other a little bit there.
Okay. So, hey, it helped his teammate, Joey Logano.
He sure did. An hour later. Yeah.
Let's see if we notice anything on any of these. We won't do the whole thing, of course. So let me just see if we notice anything in this one. So because this isn't going to last long.
No, it crashed on 1 lap. I can promise you that.
Oh, that's right. There's Kyle Larson. Get out of the way.
Yeah. And there goes Busch along with him. I think that was Busch that was up there.
Yep. I remember this.
Yep. Larson, Busch.
And this is the thing that just kills you as a fan. Not that we should be advocating violence, but I mean, in the old days, if that would happen in the old days, the Ross Chastain driver at the end of the race would have came over to Kyle Larson and decked him.
Sure.
Bobby
Allison and Cale Yarborough in the infield at Daytona.
And there's Logano making his way up to 6th now. Kyle's still in it, 4th. And Truex, because Briscoe's been terrible here. And Truex had a good run. So here's another one. Oh, that didn't. Oh, I thought that was going to end immediately.
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, there it goes. Yep. Wait, are they going to call it there or no?
Probably not. It might be one other one after.
Looks like Denny's going to clear to the win. He's going, yes, it's all mine again. I've got the.
And there it goes.
And there we go. All the way back there. Meaningless back there.
Yep.
So that went that one. Hamlin still got the jump start. Oh, I guess Kyle didn't make it on this one. Oh, here we go.
Was that the graphic about how fuel moves into the engine?
Oh. What was that?
I think that was a graphic about the fuel tank.
Okay. Yeah. So that was a good time to talk about it. That's what screwed Hamlin on Sunday.
Yep, exactly right.
Nice for a change for the one of the best pit crews to screw up.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thing that impressed me about Carson Hocevar on Sunday.
Yeah.
Was
He
not
stayed in it for a
just
while.
Carson Hocevar, but his team kept putting him out there in good position.
Absolutely.
Yep, Kyle's still in it. So basically we have the same, nobody screwed up there. Oh, there we go. And Larson runs out of gas. And we still have Hamlin up front. Hamlin must have ran out of gas then or something.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
We get a replay. Because somebody just totally took out Kyle. I don't know who that was.
Hamlin ended up 12th and running, so would have been gas for him.
And of course, Kyle doesn't have fans. Come on. Be nice to the old man. All right, show the replay, will you? Here it is.
Yep.
Oh, come on. Show me who knocked him out. I don't want to see that part. There we go. Who is that? That white car. That's the one that's going to knock. Oh, it's Elliott. Oh, he got sandwiched. Okay, that was Larson's fault, basically, for running out of gas. Okay, not his fault, but that's what happened, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because even Elliott was getting pushed from behind to Truex behind him or who, but it was a sandwich of about 5 or 6 cars once Larson slowed down.
So Hamlin already had to, I think Hamlin, did he pit? I think he pit.
Had to have pitted at this point.
Yeah, to get gas. So he decided, that's it, I'm out. And I think this is it.
Cody Ware, Zane Smith.
Oh, that was another one, I guess. Yeah, that was another one. So let's get the last one then. Here we go. So, yeah, Zane Smith wound up down there.
Sorry, not Cody Ware, Corey LaJoie.
Corey LaJoie. Wow. AJ, who had a really good run. Very impressive. AJ was solid, like top 5, 6 all night.
Yeah, and I think that's a good omen for the races that are coming because the road courses are coming and that's where they expect to be fast. To be able to be that fast at Charlotte through 600 miles as well has got to give them a ton of confidence going forward.
Do we have a gauge on when to handicap Hocevar yet?
I still think the second half of the season, Sunday for me was more of what we've been seeing from him, which is flashes of potential. And I think just putting the whole race together, once you get to tracks that he's been at before, I think he'll be more consistently toward the front.
So you really can at this point, there's no track, type of track that you would feel that he would be, or he has shown to be good at yet, correct? I mean, we don't have that, do we?
Yeah, not till we get back to Charlotte, maybe. And even then it's going to be on a road course. So I think we got to wait till the second time around where he can leverage what he knows and what he and the team have been good at. And then it's just going to be a matter of execution at that point.
And this is the end here.
Zane Smith, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, and Preece up there in 4th.
I mean, the restarts sure made things exciting.
Yeah.
Oh. Clean driving there. Oh, there's another wreck. Clean driving there. That could have been another driver might have said, it's all pandemonium here tonight anyway. Let me get Logano out of the way. But Reddick was nice about it. Okay, so that's what happened last year. And again, that's really what we have to go on and really Chevy and Toyota have done, even though Chevy's had the wins, Toyota's also been pretty strong here without the wins. Ford is one, even though they got the win, that's the manufacturer that's kind of been behind so far. What have you noticed at Nashville? Do you like the racing or not? And of course, we're not talking about what we just saw.
Not talking about what we just saw. I don't, nothing really stands out. I do think the track is a good one to be going to, the right one to be going to, because it's a little bit shorter than a 1.5 mile oval. It's an intermediate track nonetheless, but the surface being concrete applies a really different kind of perspective to it, a little bit more tire wear, a little bit more focus on grip and handling and car handling or car setup throughout the race. So I think that bodes well. You're not probably going to get the same type of racing that we saw at Las Vegas, though, or Homestead. But the surface being a little bit more abrasive, a little bit more sensitive to temperature, a little bit more sensitive to the rubber pickup, I think is going to make for an interesting day.
Okay, so is there a track that do we consider Dover?
Yeah, probably Dover because of the steep banking. Dover is still a 1.5 mile track. It's a concrete track. Kind of hard to put anything against that in terms of likeness, but from a surface perspective, definitely the closest. And maybe from a track perspective, maybe like a Kansas in terms of shape and banking, but with Dover type of surface, I think is probably the best kind of comparison that you could get.
Okay.
So Kansas, but a little bit more abrasive, a little bit more harsh on tires.
So do you, as the racing, do you recall whether or not you like or don't really like the racing here with the next gen? Well, really, it's only been the next gen, I believe, to have one race besides the next gen.
Yeah, like I said, nothing really stands out to me, so I can't recall anything that's super entertaining.
I guess that's good.
Could be good. Yeah, definitely.
That means could be good.
It could be bad. It's not going to be as bad as the races where we've seen complete domination, where somebody leads 200 and some laps.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Right.
Okay. All right. So and just to let everybody know here, in case you did see an edit, and I think you're going to see, that means we had about a 10-minute time to look at the race here last year. And if you want to see just that video, that'll be on demand only. We'll put it up on the channel so you can see what we saw last year, because that's basically a video that we're not going to be able to earn revenue on YouTube, because I'm sure we'll get claimed for it. But on-demand viewers are going to be watching without that. So again, if you want to see what we talked about there, you can check it out on the channel. I'll have a link in the description as well, as soon as we can put it up there. Okay.
Yeah. Talking about the race and domination, looks like in 2023, the winner led 99 laps. 2022, the winner led 42 laps. The year that Kyle Larson won, which was the first year this track was on the schedule, Kyle Larson led 264 of 300 laps. So I guess that kind of proves my point that, they're not bad. 2021 going back that far is a little bit, that wouldn't have been the new generation of car though either at that point. So certainly it looks like the new generation of cars helped this track avoid the domination that we don't like to see.
Yeah, I think, let's see. Yeah, because like you said, I think that was the most dominating race, wasn't it? The 21 race, the Larson win. Yeah.
264 of 300 laps. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. Crazy.
And actually that year, Chevy had the top 7 in practice. So they were already fast. And then Larson went out there and dominated. So thank goodness the next gen changed this track, because I think that would have been a bad track with the old car.
Agreed.
So at least it's different now. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look now at the odds. And again, it will not be a surprise who the favorite is. So I'm not even going to have any, drum roll. Do I have a drum roll? If I don't have yes, I still haven't gotten the drum roll. What's wrong with me? I got to get a drum roll. I don't have it yet. Okay. Anyway.
His average finish at this track is 4.5. Out of the 4 races that they've had here, he's won 1, finished in the top 5 3, and finished in the top 10 4 times. So this is a week where, yes, Kyle Larson deserves to be the favorite.
Yeah, the only thing is he is a vulnerable favorite, again, because of the fact that, again, next gen car, no laps led.
Yeah, there you go.
And again, this is all about value. This is never about, oh, we're not picking Kyle Larson this week. Because if you have never watched our show before and this is the first time you're going to watch it, and you're wondering, or the next few weeks, why we keep not picking Larson, or why are we critical about Larson, has nothing to do with his talent. It's nothing to do with the fact that we don't think he probably should be favored or should be one of the top contenders. It's just based on value. And we have no value with Kyle Larson, who's never led a lap in the next gen car at 4-1. That's what it's about. That's really what it is. And look, if there's no other top contenders around him, then hey, I'll go with the 4-1 driver. But as we're going to get into, there are some better options with better odds. Okay, Lana gets an opportunity to chime in live. So what do you? Yeah, I see. This is, by the way, this is how the show would look like, or will look like, when CJ and I can get around to doing it with about a half hour left in the race on a Sunday or a Saturday. So hopefully we'll be able to do this at some point. Again, more than likely it'd have to be a Talladega Daytona type of situation, because, by the way, the scheduling is really going to get a little bit different in a positive way. Why is the race at 7:00 on Sunday?
I wish I knew. I don't know.
I was looking for I went right to Monday to see, is it a holiday again?
No, it is not. Yeah, I don't know. Not until Atlanta do we have a Saturday night race, and that's the end of June, and then we'll only have one other one. Well, I guess two other ones. We'll have Richmond and Daytona, and to close out the regular season, the second half of August.
Oh, you know what it is? It's Western Australia Day.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, because Australia will already be following day at that point.
Oh, Lord. But hey, we have a 2:00 race in Michigan.
It'll already be Monday in Australia, on Western Australia. Even in Western Australia, I think it'll still be Monday by the time this race starts.
So at least, look, here it is. Sunday at 7, 2:00 at Michigan.
Yeah.
Let's see. Back to 3 at Mexico. 2:00 at Pocono. And then we get this 7:00 Saturday night race in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So the whole month, except for Mexico, is a little bit different. So anyway, we'll do our best to help Lana. We gave you Byron, and nothing we can do about that.
Sorry.
So let's go ahead and check out these three drivers. Again, besides Larson, we just did that. Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell. And I think these were actually the two best cars. You did not see Christopher Bell. You saw him when he had some issues with the car. I think we showed a little bit about a little of that. But Bell had led 131 laps in the race, started third. Hamlin, and by the way, his other results, third. So he had the crash was his best race in 4 trips. The other results for Bell, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So he's really strong. Hamlin, meanwhile, 12th lap. We just showed you Denny Hamlin should have won, and he was on the pole leading 70 laps. Then he was third, led 81 laps in 2023, and then he was 6th, led 114 laps from the pole. So Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell are look, I'm sorry, but they're better than Kyle Larson here. They just are. Yeah. Larson really should be the third choice here. It should be, I would probably put Hamlin first, Bell second, Larson third.
Yeah, it's kind of a toss-up for me between Bell and Hamlin. I'm going to go on the fact that Bell figured it out last year, leading that 131 laps, and probably could have won. Denny Hamlin coming off of a bad race with a problem last week, or due to a problem last week, and then also fuel issues in this one last year. Didn't lead as many laps as Bell, but Hamlin's definitely been more consistent than Bell, certainly. If you want to call 3 other top 10s out of 4 races inconsistent for Christopher Bell. So I think if he didn't have that crash, would have been another top 10 result. So take a choice between Bell and Hamlin. Like you said, both of them are a better value than Kyle Larson this week.
And Toyota, again, this is the point. Even though they haven't won here yet, they're fast here. They're just as fast as Chevy, but Chevy's getting the wins, and that matters. By the way, Lana, going with the AI. Was that Grok? Were you using Grok, Lana? I like that.
All right.
Yeah, that does make sense. But then again, you could do that on every Sunday. So, yeah, there's got to be a reason, but they'll never tell us. Okay. Who do you think is next? Who should be next?
I think probably William Byron, or maybe, probably William Byron. Yeah.
There you go, William Byron. And then we've got Blaney, Reddick, and Chastain.
They're in Chastain. I was going to argue should have been in Byron's spot, but that just gives us more value.
Yes, we'll get to that in a second because Byron is okay here. And that's it. He's had 2 good ones, 2 bad ones. Maybe some might say he's due because of what happened on Sunday. But he's 6-1, and he has never had matter of fact, I'm not even sure if he's led many laps here. He might have led a couple. So, yeah, at 6-1, I need better odds than that. So there's no value there. But Blaney, who got involved with the crash, and he probably would have ended up, I think, somewhere in the top 10 by the end of the night. But he had all sorts of handling issues the entire weekend. He wasn't winning that race, and then got into the wreck that knocked him out. So I'm a little bit concerned with that because of he can go on a streak when that happens. But I'm willing to forgive him for 1 week, and he does have a couple of decent finishes. He's had 2 wrecks, and when he hasn't wrecked, he's finished 3rd and 6th. And he was actually the best Ford in this race last year, but they had, surprise, surprise, a poor strategy decision. And I forget what it was, but that's what my notes said, that, Blaney had a pretty good car last year here, but they got screwed up with their decision. See, big surprise that Blaney's crew, bad decision, Logano's crew, good decision, win. So this is the story of Ryan Blaney's career with his team. Reddick, meanwhile, 3rd here last year. Also, actually had a pretty good car in 2023 with a bad result. And that's it. His first 2 years, nothing. Last 2 years, good. Problem is that even Reddick was okay on Sunday. It's still in sort of a bad groove right now, which was my concern going into the race. And it kind of, and again, this is what I'm talking about. When you're in a bad run and you see Reddick and he's up there and it looks like everything's going to be okay. Well, no, it didn't turn out okay because he's not in a good way. It was the 5th straight race. He was outside the top 10, actually outside the top 13. So I'm not going to take him because of that. But Chastain, as you said, you hit it on the head, CJ. He's definitely one of the best. He might actually even be the best statistical driver here because he led 45 laps last year before the crash that you saw. Might have been able to win the race, even though he would have finished 2nd. So he really would have finished 2nd, I believe. Then he won the race from the pole the year before that. So that would have been 2 straight wins at the track. And the year before that, he finished 5th. And the year before that, he finished 2nd. So that's an awful lot of good stuff. And the only thing, by the way, that was 12-1 just about an hour ago. The only thing is, can he win back-to-back?
Yeah, back-to-back is the only question for me. Like I said, I was leaning towards saying Ross Chastain when you were guessing who is going to be the 4th choice there. But then I realized that Ross Chastain is not going to get the same kind of love that William Byron does. But Ross Chastain absolutely deserves it. The only question is whether he can go back-to-back. I want to say that he can. We talk about it all the time. When Chastain gets a track, he gets a track. And this is a track that he gets 2nd, 5th, first in his first 3 races. He, like you said, and we showed, would have finished second last year had he not crashed out. He led 45 laps that day as well. And it doesn't matter where he starts. He won from pole, finished 5th from 7th, started 19th and finished second the first year, started 20th and was up in second for the finish last year before the crash. So certainly out of this bunch, Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, like you said, just not living up to the expectations, the potential there. William Byron, maybe he's due, but I don't know that I like 6.65 for him. I'd rather take Ryan Blaney at 8.5 because I think he's due as well. For me, out of this group, Ross Chastain certainly the top choice. Blaney second, Byron probably a distant third.
Okay, and then Elliott's the last one before we take a jump at 14-1. He's got a win, as we've mentioned. So he won in 2022, led 42 laps that year. He also has a 4th place finish out of the 4. So 2 top 5s and a win. He was 8-1 last year. Now you're getting 14-1. It's obvious. Again, he's had a problem leading laps. Once again, was in solid position last week, but just never was able to get any further than just around the top 10, outside the top 10, a little bit inside the top 10. But you are still getting decent odds with Elliott at 14-1. And then with the rest of them, Logano, Briscoe, and Buescher. Look, I put a possibility at Logano for one reason, and that is just that you're getting 22-1. And, if you look at it, the good thing is, and it's not just the win. All right, so he's got to win. He's the defending champ. In his other 3 results, 2 top 10s, but more importantly, all 3 of those races, he started in the top 5. So you got a driver that started in the top 5 the first 3 races, won the 4th race, and I'm getting better odds this week than I got last year, which was 18-1. So I know he's driving a Ford. I know he's not having a good year, but I'm just pointing it out. There's value here for Joey Logano if you want to take him. Briscoe, meanwhile, he's just never done anything here. The only thing is we mentioned Truex was really strong here last year. And by the way, Briscoe was 100-1 last year. So big difference in team. And Chris Buescher might be the interesting one. 80-1, by the way, last year. 25-1 here. 5th in this race last year, which was his best finish. So I think that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Joey Logano is interesting because he's somewhat pretty consistent top 10 finisher at this track. Kind of lucked into the win with all the overtime restarts last year. Chase Elliott, he's just missing that edge for me. I thought last week would have been one where we should have seen more from him. He was also, kind of hovering around the top 10 pretty much all night. I would have expected or would have liked to have seen him further up. Chase Briscoe, I don't even know what to say. You're giving him the same odds as somebody who finished in the top 10 pretty consistently at this track and has a win, Joey Logano, for the same price when Briscoe's average finish at this track is 29.3. His best finish last year was 21st. His best starting position is only 16th. So yeah, he's with Joe Gibbs Racing, and Joe Gibbs, he has been turning up. He's been getting better in recent weeks, but still he's just not there yet, and certainly shouldn't be getting the same odds as Joey Logano. I think Chris Buescher is the interesting one, mainly because RFK Racing, the Fords, Roush, they have a history of being really good on rough tire tracks, and this is a rough tire track with a concrete surface. And I don't know, Lana with Grok is probably correct in terms of the temperature. Concrete, as I said at the beginning, is much more sensitive to temperature changes, and Nashville can get hot, certainly in the summer. It's been kind of cool here further north in May than I would like it to be. Maybe it'll be hot this weekend at Nashville, but if you're going to have the race in the evening, it's going to be a little bit cooler. So maybe that doesn't play as much into Chris Buescher's hands, whereas if it would have been in the afternoon, maybe a little bit more toward his favor. But I think Chris Buescher, God, I keep like
Christopher Buescher
has that stuck in my mind because he screwed it up so badly. Now it's just it's stuck in my mind. I get the Dale Earnhardt Jr. disease, but I think Chris Buescher probably is the most interesting pick at this point, just because of the fact that it's a concrete track.
And I'm gonna take a look at Dover in just a minute while we're doing this, but the thing I am interested in Briscoe is just the fact that in his last 2 races, he's put together a couple top 5s.
He has been better.
Yeah.
Absolutely, he's been better.
And now he's got the team, the car that had a good race year last year. So, but maybe I would feel a lot better if he qualified well. Maybe one of those situations that you're worth, because his odds will drop, but they won't drop considerably. Maybe even if he's top 5, you'll get down to 15, 14 at the lowest. I can't imagine it that low. So it's still good odds. And I think it's worth it because he's never started better than 16th here.
Yep.
So
absolutely agree.
So I was on the pole last week and had a good finish. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So, yeah, Keselowski, he hasn't done anything here, and you know the way he's going. So, Gibbs, same thing. He hasn't done much here.
Little bonus from Keselowski last week. Started to turn things around, but again, can he do that 2 weeks in a row? We'll see, and it's going to be really tough for him at this track in particular. Like you said, he's done nothing here.
Yeah, that's true. There was some life in Keselowski. At least the result was, did he deserve to be 5th last week? No, but he got there. And that was important because it was a long race. And the previous races, which he did not finish, he actually had more of he had some competition. He was competition, those races that he did not finish. So, yeah, you're right. I think the thing, though, that does just make me just disqualify that is just he's never done anything here. So. But he is a long shot, 25-1. Gibbs hasn't done anything. Now, Kyle Berry, by the way, was started 2nd last year in this race, ended up crashing. But I think Kyle Busch is the one that I'm going to go with here because, yeah, he crashed, but we showed you what happened. He was right there at the end. Without the crash, he's top 5. 9th in 2023. Led 54 laps in 2022 and started 2nd in 2021, finished 11th, led 10 laps. So he's led 10 or more in 3 of 4 races here with an average starting position of 19. So another situation where, I'm willing to be, based on this, I'm willing to give him a shot before the 28-1 because of his name recognition. If he qualifies really well, you're going to lose half of that, I believe. So I'm willing to take the chance on Kyle Busch, which we haven't said much of lately.
Yeah, I think Kyle Busch is a good choice. Even that 54 laps led back in 2022, that came from the 36th starting spot. So he has a habit of finding his way to the front. He's just got to put everything together, not make any mistakes, not get caught up in any crashes, and he could potentially be there in the finish or for the finish. Keselowski, like I said, nothing. Gibbs, nothing. Again, Josh Berry would be my second choice, only because he's been racing so well with Wood Brothers. I would have expected, again, a little bit more out of him last week. He didn't do bad, but would have liked to have seen a little bit more out of him last week. So Busch gets a nod for me over Berry here in this grouping.
Okay. Next group. Now look at Carson Hocevar, now down to 35-1, and very impressive, of course. We all saw that, and he's been doing really well. It's now we're losing value though, but he's now teetering. So you're still getting good numbers, just like Bowman continues to be good value. Ryan Preece, if you take a look at Preece, he's coming in with back-to-back top 10s. He was 4th here last year. And believe it or not, Bubba Wallace is value. So now he's no longer 25-1 anymore. Now he's 50-1. Now he's value. Now he's worth considering because he's finished in the top 20, all 4, top 15, all 3 next gen, 7th last year. And I believe he's only started once in the top 20 because I think he started 21st. And
21st, 30th, 9th,
yeah.
4th as far as starting positions.
There you go. Best. So, yeah. And Wallace was 22-1 last year in this race. So, yeah. So, again, is he a pick or no? But the value is there. I would consider him, throw a buck on him. I like all four of these actually, as far as pretty deep. Because look at Carson Hocevar in the Truck Series, which matters a little bit. He won the race in 2023, was third in 2022. He did crash in the Xfinity race in 2023. He didn't have many Xfinity Series races, by the way, overall. One was here. So and again, we mentioned Priest. So yeah, I think. By the way, as far as Bowman actually doesn't have a whole lot here. He's had decent qualifying starts. He's had decent, I should just say average qualifying starts, average finishes, all of them outside the top 10. But he is driving a Chevy. And this is what Bowman does. That's why you always have to be tricky with Bowman. You have to just sometimes just go, well, Chevy's pretty fast here. They won all the races when it's been normal racing here. So why not Bowman? Maybe this is his turn. So I still wouldn't give up on Bowman as a potential long shot here this week. So yeah, who would you take first out of this group?
Probably Ryan Preece. I think last week, as predicted, he was a top 10 contender. He made it up into the top 5 here last year in arguably lesser equipment. Started 22nd in that race. So Ryan Preece would be my top choice. Probably Carson Hocevar, to be honest, might be my second choice. I like the Bubba Wallace play as well. Top 20 every single time he's been at this track, more of a top 15 kind of guy. Alex Bowman would probably be the last out of the bunch on this list for me. But Preece with RFK Racing, concrete surface, hard on tires, I think this kind of falls into Preece's hands. So I think we're talking about another top 10 day potential for Ryan Preece.
How many do they race once at Dover a year or twice?
I think they cut it back to once. Let me take a look here.
Who did win last year? Hamlin won last year. So keep that in mind. And Truex was third. And Kyle Busch was fourth.
There you go.
So, and again, Truex. So we've mentioned Briscoe. Larson was second. Busch was fourth. So again, Kyle right there may again be a really good long shot play. But Preece would be the one you'd go with here.
Yeah.
See, with Hocevar, it's like, yeah, why wouldn't we recommend Hocevar? But again, it's like throwing darts with Hocevar. I don't know when he's going to have a good race this week or not. It's just, it's sort of like the way I would feel this week about Bowman. It's like, if I take him, I'm not necessarily doing it because I see anything. It's just, he deserves it. He's value and maybe he's due. Okay. I don't know what he's doing here. I always find it funny when they throw in these drivers like this that like drive like 3 times a year. And it's like that they should be like 500 to 1. And for some reason, they always end up in the top 100. I don't know why Vegas does that. But the one that sticks out, actually 2 of them stick out here. And that would be AJ and Suarez. Suarez really mostly because of Chastain. That he's so good here that why wouldn't I take a look at Suarez at 70 to 1, considering his first 3 trips here were all top 15s, including a 7th, which is pretty good for Daniel Suarez. But the other one is definitely AJ, because AJ finished 11th and 10th in the last 2 years, had one of his best, non-road course results that I can recall in years, and that's what he's coming off of. And by the way, his average starting position here is 20.3. So once again, keep an eye on AJ Allmendinger. If he qualifies well, that could be a good sign. But yeah, I think Suarez and AJ are worth a look.
I would think AJ Allmendinger, regardless of where he qualified, is worth a look. 19th, 10th, and 11th in 3 races here. Led 1 lap last year. Again, picking it up last week, and I think that bodes well for this next stretch of races, especially when we get to the road courses that are coming. And yeah, Daniel Suarez would certainly be the second choice here at 70 to 1, especially considering, like you said, Chastain, how good Chastain has been here. And Suarez has not been bad at all. He's got a top 10 back in 2021. In the next generation of car, 15th and 12th are his 2 best finishes. Ended up finishing 22nd last year from the 31st. That's probably the only blemish on his Nashville resume here. So Allmendinger for me, top. Suarez probably second.
Okay. And I think there's actually a few more, believe it or not. And I mean, Zane Smith is worth looking at because, as you saw, he was there at the end of the race. He finished second last year after he started 36th.
Yep.
Also finished seventh in his only Xfinity Series race. And more impressively, in his 3 truck races at Nashville, he has an average of 2.7 with 2 runner-ups. So Zane Smith also at 100-1. He's definitely the one that sticks out for me of this 4.
Yep, and Gregson finished 10th last year, started 16th, didn't lead any laps, but still came home with a top 10 finish. We saw him in a couple of those clips earlier as well. Zane Smith with his second place finish from 36. A lot of luck played into that, but he's also shown this season as well that he can be pretty good, kind of like Carson Hocevar, kind of pick your week, and he can outperform for sure.
Yeah, and you just don't know.
Correct.
But that's the only thing we can go on that helps us is their experience here in other series. And that does matter a little bit. Okay. In this group, there are some, I think 3 of these drivers are the last 3 to look at. Dylan, because of Kyle Busch, and he has 3 top 15s. He crashed last year. So 3 top 15s. It's not bad at 200-1. Stenhouse ended up 11th. He continues to have a really good season, did not have a good car, but still found his way to 11th last week. And he did finish 6th in his first go-around here before next gen, and has never qualified better than 23rd in the next gen. So keep an eye on qualifying for Stenhouse at 200-1. And John Hunter Nemechek is also having a better year than people think. He crashed in his only cup last year, but in 2 Xfinity Series races, he's got a win. And there's John Hunter at 300-1.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Austin Dillon actually close out the top 10 potential that he had last week. But I think all 3 of these drivers are worth looking at. They're all having pretty good seasons. This is not a bad track. A couple of top 10s thrown in there for them. So at odds like that, why not take a swing with $1 each?
By the way, Gregson finished 6th in the race at Dover last year. So if you're interested in Noah Gregson as a long shot. Okay, I believe I picked first.
You do.
Okay, so yeah, it's going to be between Hamlin, Bell. I think they're the 2 logical top choices. So I'm going to go ahead and take Denny Hamlin.
Very good, because I wanted to take Christopher Bell.
Okay, that makes it easy. Next up, I'm going to rule out Blaney. He's too low. Same with Chastain. I think he's too low. I'll go with Kyle.
I will take Chastain then.
Okay. And then the last long shot comes down to, let's see. For me, it's going to come down to Briscoe, Hocevar, Priest, AJ, Suarez, Zane Smith are all the long shots. Can't really say Zane Smith or even Hocevar as a pick. That doesn't mean I won't do something with them. So let's see. I will go. I'll tell you what. I'll go with Briscoe.
For me, it's between Priest and Allmendinger. I'll go with Priest, though.
Okay, and that wraps it up. So that is going to do it for live coverage of our NASCAR Cup Series race preview. Nashville, 7 o'clock on Sunday. Again, don't forget that because of the Australian thing. And we will be back next week to preview Michigan, and maybe we'll, see, the thing with doing live is just making sure that we're pretty confident that we're going to do it. We don't want to screw around with whether, changing the schedule and all. And by the way, this is also why it's really good for you to subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell too when you subscribe, because that gives you the opportunity to be prompted as a reminder that, hey, a show's about to come on, a video is about to come on that you basically subscribe to. And that really helps with live shows in case you never know when those are going to pop up. So also don't forget, we have the thanks icon on the bottom of the video. That is in case you ever want to donate to the channel, sort of like a sponsorship deal. Once again, that just helps to support what we're doing here so we can continue to offer these shows for you for nothing. And coming up, we are going to be starting our Patreon here, and I'm hoping to start it by next week. So we'll let you know whether or not we're going to have any bonus coverage at NASCAR. But either way, look out for our Patreon memberships, which will be coming out in about a week or two. CJ and I are getting ready to do a fast F1 preview. So we're going to do that as we close out here behind the scenes, and that will only be available on demand. So any last words, except, of course, about rotowire.com and when those reports will be available?
Yeah, rotowire.com. We will have the link for you in the comments of this video as well. Probably on Friday, we'll have a fantasy preview and some best bets for Nashville. And then, as always, usually the Monday following the race, we have a recap. We'll also have a preview for Formula One this week as well on rotowire.com, and it'll be in the link. The link will be in the comments of that video as well when it's posted later this week.
So check it out. Let us know what you think as far as our live coverage, questions, comments, anything at all up and above. Let us know. Once again, thanks for tuning in here to our coverage on Proline TV. And we will see you on Saturday, or I will see you on Saturday for the starting lineup report, which should air about 7 o'clock on Saturday. So 24 hours before the race. Qualifying practice should end about 6:30 on Saturday. I should be ready to go with the report at 7 o'clock on Saturday. And by the way, one of those might actually be live too. So who knows? We'll see about that. Probably not, but because I never know when those things are going to go on the air. And then don't forget also to look out for Kevin's preview of the race after coming through with the 22-1 shot Ross Chastain on last week's report. So for CJ Verdun of rotowire.com, I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in here at Proline TV. We'll see everybody real soon.